Hey, what's up? It's Scotty Shaw, and today is day 10 of 40 Days of K. And the word today is courage, and I think it's a particularly important word to me because most of my life I really had to rely on my own courage. Not that I was always brave, but that when I look at the things where I did that, to break out of my situation or to move on to the next level, there was always a bit of a leap of faith. And it's interesting because I've always been convinced that I can do great things, but sometimes I need a little bit of a nudge to just, you know, take that jump. And I think this is where someone who is used to being comfortable in everything, um, especially as a result of having always been so much smarter and talented than most people. This is where people like us, like me, we struggle more because we're it's like in basketball when you win by a lot, you because you're that much better, you win by a lot, and you end up in a situation sometimes where the game is tight and you can't shake the other team, and now you're panicking. You start to lose confidence because you're not sure what to do now. This other team, your opponent, they should be 20, 30 points behind, but suddenly, they're not. And I think that's how it is in my life. Growing up, I was always one of the smartest kids, if not the smartest kids, and I could just rely on my intelligence and quick reaction to just, wow everyone, just destroy the competition. But then when it comes to something new, I don't feel comfortable because I don't have the same feeling of knowing I'm superior, or at least thinking that, um, which backed up by results academically a lot of times and intellectually means it kind of min maxes. You some situations I have supreme confidence because how would I lose? There's no way. But then other situations, I'm new to it or I don't have the same comfort, and I end up, where my confidence is a forced multiplier in situations where I have talent. In situations where I don't have the same talent and experience, it becomes, it's very much diminishing, by the same multiplication or even exponentiation factor. And so, I've always thought it's interesting. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't go around saying you're smart." Well, why not? It's true. I've worked to be smart. It wasn't just I was born with it and I've stayed smart. It's I worked to be smart. Just like if you're athletic, there's nothing wrong with going around saying you're athletic. If you can back it up, it's true. So if I go around saying, yeah, I'm really smart, I've worked at it, so it's true. Because at the same time, that also means there are situations where I need to improve myself. You can talk about I can be more humble. Yeah, in situations where I need to be humble, I'll do that. But I think it's a misconception for people. Oh, you can't talk about being smart. Why not? It's something you can work on. Why hide that? You know, just like if someone says, "Oh yeah, I'm actually, I'm good at reading, reading people. I'm good at, following the numbers for the stock market." Some things are inherent. Some things are learned. You work hard at that, and if someone says, "Yeah, I'm really courageous," it's a weird thing to bring up, but if you are, you've worked at it. It's true. So I think, that's where I try to stay confident and courageous. Not just in pursuing success, but as a person. There's a lot of times where I feel very comfortable, and other times where I have no idea what I'm doing. And um, I would say a lot of my shortfalls in life probably to some degree come from moments of lacking that courage. And Coach K starts off saying about courage: "I often share with my Duke basketball teams a Winston Churchill quote: 'Courage is the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees all the others.'" And, this is definitely where you have the courage to speak up and tell the truth when you fear the other person might not want to hear it. To reach out to someone who you realize needs help, is alone, feels confused. And another part Coach K wrote, uh, so he italicized the Winston Churchill quote, and then another part, always surround yourself with individuals who will help to enable your courage when it is lacking from within. And like I said, this reminds me of someone who's done that for me, and um, there's other ways for me to remember that people have given me that same courage when it was lacking within. And um, he Coach K closed out saying, as President John F. Kennedy once said, "Courage is an opportunity that sooner or later is presented to all of us." And you really could just leave that right there. But earlier, where I talked about, if you're a basketball team that's dominant, you beat everyone by 20, 30 points, and then you're tied with the team. Someone's hanging on. You start to, you feel rattled because it's unfamiliar to you. That's where adaptability and, poise, a lot of these things are important. But there is something to be said with learning from failures. And if you destroy all your competition all the time as a basketball team, and then someone's, really close with you, you're not sure what to do anymore. Start to lack confidence because you don't have that experience of how to beat a team that's keeping up. Your experience is how to defeat a team very quickly, not, how do we scrap out the last 2 minutes. And, for me, like I said, growing up, I was always so much smarter. So I had experience in stepping into academic and intellectual situations and dominating. But then other areas, I lacked that confidence and experience. And as a result, my courage, was not a force multiplier. And then because I then lacked that courage, it was even worse because, usually I could rely on some combination of intelligence, courage, experience, past record, pride in what I've achieved. But then something new, that psychological effect of I had no pride to draw on. I have no prior experience to draw on. I don't have the same comfort level. It's probably not an intellectual thing where I can just, create a solution. And then as a result, I don't have the same confidence. I feel like I don't know what's going on, and I can fall into analysis paralysis, and I'm just stuck. And that's why this is such a big deal to me. But there's a reason why I mentioned the basketball thing, because I've always thought that way about specific things in life. What's a situation in basketball? And there actually is one that, and it is the one Coach K talks about here. So what happened is in 1990, national championship game, UNLV, Tark the Shark, Tarkanian, chewing on that towel. The Running Rebels beat the Duke Blue Devils by 30 points in the national championship game. Never a situation you want to be in. And it wasn't just they beat us by 30 points, it was they destroyed us by 30 points. It was 103-73, which means it wasn't just, we couldn't score. It was we couldn't even defend. So, 1990, things didn't go well. And then this is why surrounding yourself with individuals who will help to enable your courage when it's lacking from within becomes important. Because immediately after the game, Coach K's mom, Emily, came up and said, "Mike, you're going to do better next year." And his reply was, "Mom, we were just in the national championship, right?" She said, "You'll do better next year." Okay, all right, whatever. Fast forward a year, 1991, NCAA Final Four game against UNLV. Everyone remembered last year, lost by 30 points. Coach K can't win the big game. And by this time, UNLV had won 45 games in a row, including the national championship game from 1990. So they basically closed out 90 with this undefeated streak, kept it going into 91. And this is where a lot of people would say, you're outmatched, you don't have the same skills and stuff. And this is where an underdog can win, because the underdog might not have the same skills, But if you can create that situation where the favorite is uncomfortable, lacks that courage, starts to question themselves, analysis paralysis, that's when the underdog has a chance to win. And you might look back and say, "Oh, was Duke really an underdog? This and that," because we know the stories. Christian Laettner had built up Bobby Hurley against his will, more or less, from what I understand. But then Bobby Hurley stepped up, after being destroyed as a freshman. Now it's a sophomore year, and what happened was this time, I think what happened was Coach K would have the 5 starters play against 7 guys because UNLV's defense, called the Amoeba, felt it was a mixture of a man-to-man and a matchup zone. And they would just shift in and out of defensive play or defensive schemes all the time to really throw everyone off. Their thing was it felt like playing against 7 guys. So Coach K would make everyone practice like that. So then when they faced the Amoeba again, now they had the confidence, the courage, because they had the experience. They could feel it. But more importantly, Coach K himself wavers every now and then, and he says here, with under 2.5 minutes remaining, UNLV jumped to a 5-point lead, and it seemed the momentum was going their way. When Bobby brought the ball down the court, I recognized that UNLV had changed from a man-to-man defense to a matchup zone. I jumped up off the bench to tell Bobby to run a certain play against this new defense. Just as I got to my feet, Bobby took a 3-point shot and knocked it down. He did not need my instruction. He needed to courageously follow his instincts. As a result of that play, the momentum shifted back, and we were put in the position to win the game in the last few seconds. Duke was still down 2 after the shot, but UNLV, with under 2.5 minutes remaining, went from 5 points up finally. It was a seesaw game. Now they're up 5. Suddenly they're only up 2, and it's a big shot. This is where confidence, courage, pride, experience, all that comes into play, because UNLV, they were starting to break free of Duke, but now suddenly they're in a situation where they have to fight to the last second. After winning 45 games in a row and destroying Duke the previous year by 30, they no longer remembered how to close out close games. And they start to get into analysis paralysis. They lack that courage. Bobby Hurley recognized he had to do something right away. He knew what he could do and what he had to do, and it rattled them. And that's where you end up in a situation sometimes where the underdog wins. The big thing is a lot of people think game-winning shots, their last-second shots. Not always. Daggers, that can be the shot that puts the other team away. Just, you kill them right there. 40 minutes of hell with Arkansas growing up. Duke, a lot of the elite teams, they look for that breaking point where they push until you're just a little tired, and then they just blitz you and destroy you right there. Suddenly you're up, you're up 2 or 3. Now you're down 7. You're up 17. Now you're only up 3, but the other team, Duke, is just right there. Maybe you've been hanging on, only down 5 going into the halftime, but then suddenly 4 minutes into the second half, you're down 17. And that's the thing. You got to be able to follow that instinct, but the instinct has to be honed and sharpened over time. So you can't just, win all the time. Or you can't just destroy everyone all the time. That's where sometimes you got to engage in that struggle and realize that your talent is there, but that grit and heart, how hard are you willing to exploit your talent and work to maximize the effect, the results? I think the biggest thing is, Coach K, he's always said the most courageous player he's coached is Bobby Hurley, because when he felt stifled or, just unsure, he could look Bobby in the eye and find the confidence he needed. And Coach K actually often says he wants to be that, because finding the inner courage to make the right decision, being an adult, he got that from his parents when, he was going into college. He was in high school, getting recruited to play basketball at West Point. You know, his parents gave him the confidence. You know, his dad particularly. Um, One of the big things is at first there was no way I was going to go to the United States Military Academy. I was too afraid and too full of self-doubt. My father, however, was not a man of many words, but when it came to ensuring that his son did not turn down a great opportunity because of simple fear, he is vocal and emphatic. Thanks to him and my mom, I was able to find the inner courage to make the right decision, one that shaped who I would become as an adult. Just look at the word encouragement and you will see that it means helping another find courage. Always surround yourself with individuals who will help to enable your courage when it is lacking from within. And, for me, like I said, my biggest struggles usually come from when I don't have that courage, that confidence, because most of my life I just go through and destroy the competition almost effortlessly because I'm just so much smarter than everyone and I work to keep that lead. But then when I'm in a situation I'm not sure what to do, it's because suddenly this isn't enough. Because that's not enough. You can't just only use your brain. You got to use everything. Your heart, your relationships, your friendships, and all that. And for me, the situations where I found myself lacking or felt lacking, usually it was just a lack of courage. Having someone to encourage me was always the biggest push I needed. In fact, sometimes that's all I needed, just knowing there's someone else on my team, someone's committed to me. And I mentioned a teammate, Derek Burnett, who we fought in practice, but on the court, we were always there for each other. Someone touches me, Derek touches him. Someone touches Derek, I touch him back. Whatever you do to them, the teammates, we're all doing to you. We weren't always trying to just beat up the other player, but it was our way of showing each other, you're my teammate. We might be fighting in practice, but during this game on the court, we're there for each other. And that's where a lot of the camaraderie, care, belief, that's where a lot of this cohesion for a team comes from. And it's part of that collective responsibility. We win and lose together. So I'm going to help you contribute to our victory. And Coach K does go on to mention, with Bobby Hurley, the momentum from UNLV carried Duke through to beating Kansas to win the championship in '91. And then '92, Final Four against Indiana, the Hoosiers. Bobby Hurley hit 4 3-pointers in the first half to keep Duke within striking distance. And I think it was in the ESPN documentary I Hate Christian Laettner, where they talk about Christian Laettner as a senior. By now, he was just worn down, and Bobby Hurley had to carry him. And in this case, that's what happened. Bobby Hurley, he hit those 4 shots. The 4 3-pointers kept Duke within striking distance. They were able to, regroup in the second half and win, and then go on to beat Michigan for the second national championship in '92. So repeating it. And, Coach K says neither of those championships would be ours unless Bobby had the courage to follow his instincts. So, I can tell courage is one of Coach K's favorite things because he goes on and on. Courage is the capacity to confront what can be imagined. We all have the capacity to imagine amazing things, but you need courage to take those often frightening steps towards making your dreams a reality. Talking about Bobby Hurley's courage, following his instincts, making Coach K's dad making sure he didn't turn out a great opportunity because of fear, vocal and emphatic. Encourage meaning helping helping another find courage. And he just says courage, that the word courage, so much of the time. My job as a leader is to show them a face of courage. Even when I myself felt stifled by moments of doubt, I could look into Bobby's eyes and find the confidence to proceed. Courage. You know, courage means daring to do what you imagine. Um, Honestly, I could just read this passage, or the whole essay, but out loud. But the main thing, he talks about courage all the time. And another way where he doesn't say courage, but for the most part, people do not attempt things because they fear the consequences. But the greatest consequence of all comes in not attempting to do the things that you believe you can. Having courage means boldly pursuing your dreams, no matter what the consequences may be. And that's why a lot of people fall very short of what they could become. I've heard high school students say it would be nice to get into this school. I never had that mindset. My mindset is that's where I want to go. I'm doing it. I just need to figure out how. But there are other areas in my life where I'm thinking, well, that's what I want. It'd be nice to have that chance. But rather than thinking it'd be nice to have that chance, why don't I just go and create that chance and create the opportunity or recreate the opportunity? That's what I did to get into Duke. I created this basketball league and I got into Duke because of it. Why don't I do that in other areas of my life? Because I lack courage. And that's just how it is. Sometimes, I just don't have enough people around me giving, enabling my courage when I'm lacking what I need. But, then again, as President John F. Kennedy says, courage is an opportunity that sooner or later is presented to all of us, whether we like it or not. And then, Winston Churchill saying, courage is the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees all the others. There's just so many things I can say about courage, so many things I can continue learning about it. Because in the end, if you have countless good qualities as an individual, but if you don't have the courage to proceed, you may never see those qualities come to fruition. It takes courage to put what you believe to be the best of you on the line, to test it, and to see how far it takes you. Courage means daring to do what you imagine. So, I think, this one hits me harder than all the others because, all the others, adaptability, I'm great at that. Adversity, no fear, or at least, I don't fear taking on adversity. Balance, I'm not great with that, so definitely a struggle. Belief, I have a lot of that. Care, I care for others. Challenges, I want challenges. Collective responsibility, I very much buy into the team. Commitment, communication. So balance, I struggle with that because, I just, didn't get to have the kind of life with balance. And some of it definitely does have to do with courage. Sometimes I feel like I don't have much, I can't take these risks. But then, courage is where, that's probably something that's lacking in some areas of my life. I min-max by accident, I guess. And developing that courage to simply step up to the plate and say, you know what, I might not be ready, but it's time to play. Or, you know what, star players off the court with 4 fouls, my turn to shine. I got to fill in the gap. Or just loose ball, dive for it. And I can see why Coach K really highly values players who have the courage to dive for loose balls, to fight, that heart, that courage, the fire, to take charges. Why not contest and challenge the shot? Well, yeah, if you can block it, go for it. But sometimes the best thing to do is just take the charge. So, it's very clear, very obvious why, courage is such a big deal to Coach K, why he said courage so much in just, 3 pages? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, almost 4 pages. But yeah, he says courage so much. He has quotes, italicized. He goes back to courage over and over. And I think that's the thing. Having courage is such a big deal. And although all this is alphabetical order, courage really does feed into all the other things, and especially the word for tomorrow, which is crisis management. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, crisis management. But definitely whoever watches this in 2035, have courage. That thing you've been thinking about doing, go and do it. Find a way to do it. Create that courage. Create the opportunities you want. You know, do your best. Put yourself on the line. See how far you can go. And, you'll be amazed at where you end up. Because when I created the basketball league, I didn't know I was going to actually get into Duke. But, I look back, if I could tell myself at that age where I would be now, I would have created an even better basketball league. Because I look back and I just think, man, I already did that when I had no idea what else to do. Just think about if I could go back and do it right. But even then, I did enough. I had the courage, stepped up to the plate, and I did what I could, got into Duke, and, just got to keep learning. It's not just being smart. It's also about developing other areas of life. And thankfully for me, being smart means it'll be faster for me to figure that stuff out. I just need to step up and get it done. So, yeah, that's courage. And tomorrow, crisis management. Take it easy.